Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop trying, they suddenly start paying attention? How the second you pull away, they lean in? It's not magic, it's psychology. The mind doesn't crave what feels certain. It longs for what feels just out of reach. Right now, they think they have you figured out. They assume you're still waiting, still hoping, still keeping a space open for them in your heart. But what happens when you take that certainty away? What happens when you shift the power dynamic so completely that they no longer know where they stand with you? That's when everything changes. That's when they start to want you again, desperately. People don't chase what they already have. They chase what they fear they've lost. That's the paradox of human desire. We think love is about proving ourselves, about showing up, about giving more. But sometimes, the most powerful move isn't to give. It's to take away, to step back, to let them feel your absence like a shadow they can't escape. Because the truth is, attraction isn't just about presence. It's about mystery, unpredictability, and the lingering question of what if. The moment you become unavailable is the moment they start to wonder if they ever really had you. That's the power of reverse psychology. It works not because you're manipulating, but because you're shifting your energy. Right now, they're comfortable. They assume they can come back whenever they please. But when you stop proving your worth, when you stop making them the center of your world, their mind starts working against them. They replay the memories. They start second-guessing their choices. They begin to crave the very thing they once took for granted. And that craving, that's what pulls them back in. Imagine a cat with a toy. The moment it's dangled in front of them, they're interested. But the second you pull it away, they pounce. That's human nature too. When something is always available, it loses its appeal. But when it becomes scarce, its value skyrockets. Right now, you may feel like they've moved on, like they don't care. But the second you stop caring, the second you shift your focus back to yourself, they will feel it. They will sense the shift. And suddenly, you'll no longer be just another option. You'll be the one thing they can't stop thinking about. You're not broken, you're rising. They walked away, thinking they held all the power, but now you hold the real control. Not by chasing, not by proving, but by stepping back and allowing them to feel what life is like without you. Silence is louder than words. Distance is more powerful than effort. And the moment they sense they've lost you for real, the panic will set in. That's when they'll start checking their phone, waiting for a message that never comes. That's when they'll start replaying every moment, every conversation, searching for a way back in. But by then, the dynamic will have shifted. You won't be waiting anymore. Think of a throne. When a ruler sits on it for too long without fear of losing it, they grow complacent. They forget its worth. But take that throne away, and suddenly its absence becomes unbearable. That's exactly what happens in relationships. The moment they believe they've lost their seat in your life, they'll do anything to reclaim it. But the key, you have to let them feel the loss. You have to let them wonder, let them question, let them feel the regret creeping in like a slow burning fire they can't put out. They don't define you, you do. Right now, they may think they have the upper hand. They may believe they can replace you, that your presence was nothing more than a temporary comfort. But what they don't realize is that no one else will ever bring what you brought. No one else carries your energy, your essence, your depth. And the moment they start comparing, the moment they realize that every new interaction feels hollow, That's when the hunger begins. Because nothing is more tempting than what they can no longer have. Your scars are proof you survived. This isn't about making them suffer. It's about stepping into your power. You've cried enough. It's time to conquer. This is your moment to reclaim everything, to stop waiting, to stop giving them the satisfaction of knowing you're still there. You don't need them to be whole. You were always whole on your own. And when they finally wake up and realize they've lost something irreplaceable, when they finally feel the absence of what they once had, the question won't be whether they want you back. It will be whether they're still worthy of you. Your silence will echo louder than their words. They thought they had you. They assumed they could walk away and return at their convenience. But now, as they sit with the weight of uncertainty, as they start to feel the emptiness where you used to be, they'll begin to question everything. And that's when the tables turn, because suddenly you're no longer the one waiting. You're no longer the one proving. You are the one they now have to chase. Enough is enough. Take your power back. They underestimated you. Now prove them wrong. They thought you'd always be there, that they had all the time in the world. But time has a funny way of teaching the hardest lessons. And this time, the lesson is theirs to learn. Because while they were busy thinking you were replaceable, they never realized you were one of a kind. And now they have to live with the regret of knowing that what they once had is no longer within their reach. Stop waiting. The time is now. Let the hurt fuel your growth. Let the silence speak for itself. Let them feel the weight of their choices. And when they finally turn back, searching for the love they once took for granted, they'll realize the truth they never saw coming. They lost you, and now you are the one they can't stop craving. A strong affirmation rewires your mind, shifting your energy from seeking validation to becoming the force they can't ignore. Here is powerful affirmation. I am the absence they regret. Write this in the comments to claim your power, to remind yourself that you are no longer waiting. You are the one they will chase. If this message resonated with you, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We pour our heart into creating content that empowers you, that helps you rise, and your support fuels us to keep going. Let's begin with number 1, the echo of your absence. Have you ever noticed how the loudest sound is often the one that isn't there? How silence, when it replaces something once familiar, becomes impossible to ignore. That's the power of your absence. They may have walked away. They may have convinced themselves they were done. But the void you left behind, that's something they never prepared for. Right now, they don't realize it yet. They think they're fine. They think life goes on. But echoes don't fade easily. And soon, your absence will become the only thing they can hear. The heart doesn't miss what's still within reach. It aches for what it believes is lost. That's the paradox of human nature. When something is readily available, we take it for granted. But take it away, and suddenly, it becomes priceless. They assumed you would always be there, that your love, your energy, your presence was something guaranteed. But the moment you step back, the moment you stop being accessible, everything shifts. The comfort they once had is replaced by uncertainty. And nothing is more haunting than wondering if you lost something irreplaceable. Imagine a room filled with laughter. For weeks, months, even years, that laughter fills the space. so much so that no one even notices it anymore. It becomes background noise, just another part of the atmosphere. But then, one day, it stops. The silence creeps in, stretching across the walls like an unfamiliar shadow. And suddenly, the absence is deafening. That's what's happening to them now. They thought they could move on easily. They believed your presence was something they could replace. But now, as the silence settles in, as the realization starts to sink deeper, they will begin to understand. Some echoes never truly fade. You're not broken, you're rising. They underestimated what it would feel like to lose you. They assumed they would move on without consequence. But the human heart doesn't work that way. The things that leave the deepest impact don't just disappear. They linger, they haunt. And right now, without even realizing it, they are starting to hear the echo of your absence in the quiet moments they once filled with you. They scroll through their phone, expecting to see your message, only to find nothing. They visit places you once shared, expecting it to feel the same, only to be met with the strange weight of something missing. They laugh at something, turning instinctively as if to share it with you, only to remember you're no longer there. And that realization, that's what will start to break them. Because it's not just about losing you. It's about losing the comfort of knowing you were always there. And the moment that comfort disappears, the chase begins. The mind doesn't let go of what it doesn't understand. And right now, they don't understand why you've stopped trying. Why you're no longer reaching out, why the person they once had wrapped around their finger is now slipping through their grasp. That's the beauty of reverse psychology. You aren't forcing them to come back. You aren't begging for their attention. You are simply shifting your energy, pulling away and letting their own mind do the work. Because nothing is more tempting than something that feels like it's slipping away. They walked away, but you're still standing. You are not chasing. You are not waiting. You are becoming the version of yourself that they now have to earn. And make no mistake, they will feel it. They will feel the weight of their own choices pressing down on them. They will start to question, to doubt, to wonder. And the more you focus on yourself, the stronger the echo of your absence will grow. Think of a candle in the dark. When it burns, it's taken for granted. It's just there, illuminating everything around it. But the moment that flame is blown out, the darkness becomes overwhelming. That's what happened when you walked away. They assumed your light was just a part of the world they lived in. But now, without it, they're starting to realize just how much warmth it truly gave. Enough is enough. Take your power back. This is not about revenge. This is not about playing games. This is about recognizing your own worth and letting them experience the consequence of losing someone like you. Let them feel the silence. Let them sit with the regret. Let them hear the echo of everything they once had, but never fully appreciated. And when they finally wake up and realize what they lost, the question won't be whether they want you back. It will be whether they still deserve you. Here is powerful affirmation. They lost me. Now they feel it. Write this in the comments to claim your power, to remind yourself that you are no longer waiting. You are the one they will miss. If this message resonated with you, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We are working tirelessly to bring you life-changing lessons that help you reclaim your strength. Your support fuels us to keep going. Let's move towards Number 2. The throne they thought would wait. Did they really think the throne would wait forever? Did they truly believe they could walk away, turn their back on everything you gave, and return when it suited them, like you were nothing more than a kingdom waiting for its ruler to return? That was their mistake. The greatest illusion in love is believing someone will always be there, no matter how much they are neglected, taken for granted, or replaced. But reality has a way of humbling even the most arrogant. And soon they will realize that the throne they abandoned now belongs to someone who no longer needs them to rule beside them. The saddest regret is realizing too late that what you thought was ordinary was once in a lifetime. They thought you were just another chapter, a comfort they could revisit whenever they pleased. But love is not a revolving door, and you are not a placeholder in someone else's story. The moment they assumed you would wait, they sealed their fate. Because people don't crave what they are certain of, they crave what they fear they can no longer have. And right now, they are about to learn the hardest lesson of all. Once a throne is given away, it is no longer theirs to reclaim. Imagine a king or queen who sat on their throne for so long they forgot its weight. They stopped valuing it, stopped appreciating what it meant. They convinced themselves that power was theirs to wield forever. So, they left, searching for something new, chasing distractions, thinking they could always return. But when they did, the throne was no longer empty. Someone else had claimed it. Someone else now carried the power they once held so carelessly. And in that moment, they understood the depth of their mistake. That's exactly what's happening now. They assumed you'd always be available. But now, they look up and realize you are no longer in the same place they left you. You are not broken. You are rising. They walked away believing they were in control, but the real power was always yours. Because the greatest shift in any relationship is not when someone leaves. It's when the one they left behind realizes they never needed them to begin with. And right now, you are stepping into that truth. You don't need to remind them of what they lost. You don't need to prove your worth. Your absence, your silence, your undeniable growth will do that for you. They don't define you. You do. Right now, they might be pretending they don't care. They may be putting on a show, acting as if they've moved on, as if their life is untouched by the loss of you. But the subconscious doesn't lie. The moment they realize you are no longer waiting, that you are no longer an option, is the moment they start feeling the weight of their own choices. That's when the regret sets in. The missed calls, the empty inbox, the silence growing louder with every passing day. Soon, they will feel the absence of what they once thought they could replace. And the more they crave what is now beyond their reach, the more they will chase what they once took for granted. Think of a rare jewel once held so effortlessly in the palm of their hand. They assumed it would always be there, always shining for them, always theirs to claim. So they set it down, carelessly, thinking they could return whenever they pleased. But by the time they reached for it again, it was gone. Not stolen, not hidden, but claimed by someone who knew its worth. And now, no matter how much they search, no matter how much they long to hold it again, it is no longer theirs. That is what your absence will teach them, not through words, not through pleading, but through the undeniable truth that you have moved forward without them. Enough is enough. Take your power back. This is not about revenge. This is about stepping into the version of yourself that no longer waits, no longer settles, no longer seeks validation from someone who was blind to your worth. You are not a second choice. You are not a fallback plan. You are the prize, the throne, the kingdom they once ruled but never truly valued. And now, as they watch you rise, as they see you thriving, as they realize they are no longer welcome in the place they once took for granted, they will feel the weight of their mistake in ways they never imagined. Your silence will echo louder than their words. The space they assumed would always be theirs will now feel like a void they can't escape. And the more they try to fill it, the more they will realize no one else will ever hold the place you once did. But by the time they come crawling back, by the time they realize that the throne they abandoned is no longer theirs, the only question that will matter is this: do you even want them back? Here is powerful affirmation. I was their throne. Now I rule alone. Write this in the comments to claim your power, to remind yourself that you are not waiting for anyone to recognize your worth. You already know it. If this message spoke to you, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We work tirelessly to bring you lessons that awaken your strength, that remind you of your power, that help you reclaim what was always yours. Your support fuels us. Let's grow together. Let's move towards. Number 3. The shadow they can't outrun. Have you ever tried to erase a memory only to find it creeping back when you least expect it? The more you push it away, the stronger it clings. That's how the human mind works. It doesn't let go of what left a mark. And right now, whether they admit it or not, you are that mark. The presence they thought they could walk away from, only to realize they can't escape. You have become the shadow they can't outrun. The past doesn't chase you. It waits for you to realize you never really left it behind. That's the truth they're now facing. They believed time would make them forget. They thought distractions, new faces, and fleeting moments would bury what you meant to them. But the subconscious doesn't lie. It records every touch, every laugh, every feeling they once had with you. And no matter how fast they run, your shadow stretches behind them, a constant reminder of what they lost. Imagine walking down an empty street at dusk. The sun is setting, casting long, stretched shadows behind you. No matter how fast you walk, how many turns you take, the shadow remains, silent, lingering, following. That's exactly what's happening to them. They thought moving on would be easy. They assumed they could replace you with someone new, someone different. But now, in the quiet spaces of their mind, you're still there. Not because you're chasing them, but because something real can't simply be erased. Right now, they might be acting like you don't exist, like they've moved forward without a second thought. But when the noise settles, when the distractions fade, they feel it. It's in the way a song reminds them of you, in the way a familiar scent stops them in their tracks, in the way a random moment triggers a flood of emotions they weren't prepared for. They try to shake it off, tell themselves it's nothing, but deep down, they know the truth. Your absence is the loudest presence in their life. They walked away, thinking they were in control. But the irony, the moment you stopped chasing, the moment you pulled back, you became unforgettable. People don't long for what's always there. They crave what feels just out of reach. And now, your silence speaks louder than their pride. Your distance unsettles them in ways they never expected. What once felt like certainty to them, knowing you were there, waiting, hoping, has now turned into doubt. And doubt breeds desire. Think of an artist who carelessly tosses aside their masterpiece, convinced they can create something better. They move on, distracted by new canvases, new ideas. But with time, they start to realize that no new creation holds the same depth, the same soul, the same magic. And suddenly, they find themselves staring at the empty space where that masterpiece once stood, haunted by the realization that they let go of something irreplaceable. That's exactly what's happening to them. They thought they could replace you. Now, every new connection feels hollow in comparison. You don't need them to be whole. You were never an option. You were the experience they'll spend years trying to recreate. But here's the secret. Nothing will ever feel the same. They will search for you in others. They will chase the feelings you once gave them, but no one else will carry your energy, your essence, your depth. And the more they try to outrun the truth, the stronger it pulls them back. The greatest regret isn't losing something. It's realizing too late that you never truly appreciated it when you had it. This is your moment to reclaim everything, not by proving your worth to them, but by stepping so fully into your power that they have no choice but to feel the void you left behind. Enough is enough. Take your power back. They underestimated you. Now let them feel what life is like without you, because nothing haunts more than the absence of something real. And by the time they understand that, you will have already become someone far beyond their reach. Let's move towards number 4, the fire that freezes them. Have you ever seen a fire so intense that instead of warming, it burns so fiercely that it leaves only cold emptiness in its wake? That's exactly what's happening to them right now. They thought walking away from you meant freedom, that your love was just another flame they could snuff out and relight elsewhere. But now, as they step into the cold reality of your absence, they are beginning to feel the frostbite of regret. The warmth they once ignored has turned into the fire that now freezes them, leaving them shivering in the emptiness they never saw coming. The cruelest fire isn't the one that burns. It's the one that leaves you cold after it's gone. They thought you would always be there, radiating warmth, ready to embrace them whenever they decided to return. But love is not an open flame, waiting to be reignited at their convenience. The moment they let go, they assumed they had control, that you would always be an option. But what they didn't realize is that you weren't just a source of comfort. You were the fire itself. And now that they've lost it, they're feeling the cold in a way that no distraction, no rebound, and no illusion of moving on can ever truly fix. Imagine a winter night where the cold seeps into your bones, no matter how many layers you wear. That's what they're experiencing now. They can surround themselves with new people, drown themselves in distractions. But the warmth they seek isn't in their world anymore. Because it was never just about having someone. It was about having you. And now that you're gone, they're left chasing a warmth they can no longer reach, haunted by the fire they never appreciated when it was right in front of them. You're not broken, you're rising. They expected you to beg, to fight for their attention, to chase after the fading embers of what once was. But instead, you've stepped back. You've let the silence speak, let the absence settle in. Let them feel what life is like without the warmth of your love. And that is what's driving them mad. Not your words, not your presence, but the unbearable realization that the fire they took for granted is no longer theirs to touch. They walked away, thinking they could replace you, But love doesn't work that way. Real connections don't fade. They leave an imprint, a void that cannot be filled by mere substitutes. Right now, they are realizing that no one else carries your energy, your passion, your depth. No one else ignites that fire within them the way you did. And the more they try to ignore it, the colder their world becomes. The more they convince themselves they've moved on, the more their heart betrays them. Because the fire they once had with you isn't something they can find just anywhere. It was rare, and now it's gone. Enough is enough. Take your power back. You don't need them to be whole. You were never just another option. You were the experience. And now they're learning the hardest lesson of all. Not every fire can be relit once it's gone out. Some are lost forever. And the most devastating truth? The fire isn't out. It's just no longer burning for them. Because now you are blazing on your own, rising higher, stronger, untouchable. Let them feel the cold. Let them sit in the emptiness of their choices. Let them wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for a warmth that no longer exists. And when they finally turn back, shivering, desperate, hoping to step back into your flame, they will realize the brutal truth. You are no longer theirs to hold. The fire that once belonged to them has moved on, and now they are the ones left in the dark. Let's move towards number 5. The unfinished chapter that keeps them up at night. Have you ever read a book that left you hanging? A story so gripping, so intense, yet the last few pages were ripped out, leaving you desperate for an ending that never comes. That's exactly what's happening in their mind right now. They thought they could close the chapter on you, walk away without a second thought, and move forward as if you were just another part of their past. But now, every quiet moment, every late-night thought, every fleeting memory of you lingers like a sentence left unfinished. The mind doesn't let go of what feels unresolved. And right now, you are the unfinished chapter they can't stop reading in their head. The most haunting words are the ones left unsaid. That's the truth they are now facing. They assumed they had control, that walking away meant moving on. But what they didn't realize is that true closure isn't something you find. It's something you feel. And they don't feel it. Not yet. Because you never gave them the ending they expected. You never begged. You never chased. You never gave them the satisfaction of knowing that you were still there, waiting in the shadows. And now, they are the ones left wondering if they made a mistake, wondering if they misjudged what they had with you, wondering if it's too late to turn back. Imagine an artist who starts a masterpiece but never finishes it. They set it aside, thinking they'll come back to it one day, only to realize later that they no longer have access to it. They stare at the half-finished canvas, seeing what it could have been, but knowing they can never touch it again. That's exactly what's happening in their heart. They walked away believing they could always return, that you would be there, waiting for them to pick up where they left off. But now, as time passes, they're realizing something painful. You are no longer where they left you. The story didn't stop when they walked away. It continued, but without them in it. And now, that unfinished chapter is the only thing they can think about. You were never meant to be their backup plan. You were never just another option, but they took you for granted, thinking they had all the time in the world to figure things out. And now they're stuck in the torment of their own uncertainty. Every conversation they replay in their mind, every moment they once overlooked, every small thing about you that they didn't fully appreciate, it's all coming back. But this time, They can't do anything about it. They want to reach out, to find some way to get closure, but deep down, they know the truth. The only real closure is the one they can never have. You moving on without them. You don't need them to be whole. You don't need an explanation, an apology, or a second chance. Because the most powerful move you can make isn't proving your worth to them. It's knowing your worth for yourself. They walked away, but you're still standing. They left thinking they were in control, but now they're the ones who can't let go. And that's the power of your silence. That's the power of letting them feel the weight of the words left unsaid, the love they failed to cherish, and the ending they'll never get to rewrite. They underestimated you. Now prove them wrong. They expected you to crumble, to wait, to hope for their return. But you are not their unfinished story. You are your own masterpiece, and your life continues whether they are in it or not. The pain they feel now, the longing, the regret, it's not your burden to carry. Let them sit with it. Let them lie awake at night, replaying every moment. Let them wonder if they lost something they can never get back. Because they have. And that realization, that's the deepest regret of all. Let's move towards number 6. The key they lost, but now need. Have you ever noticed how people only realize the value of a key after they've lost it? How they walk away from something, convinced they'll never need it again, only to find themselves locked out, desperately searching for the one thing that can get them back in. That's exactly what's happening right now. They thought they could replace you. They assumed they could walk away without consequence. But now, the door they once walked through so easily is locked. And no matter how hard they try, they can't find a way back in. And the worst part, the key they lost is you. The greatest regret isn't losing something, it's realizing too late that you needed it all along. Right now, they're living in the illusion of freedom. They believe they've moved on, that they're in control, that leaving was their decision. But regret doesn't hit all at once. It sneaks in slowly, like a door creaking shut behind them. At first, they don't notice. They distract themselves. They convince themselves that everything is fine. But then, one day, they reach for something familiar. A text, a call, a moment of comfort, and it's gone. That's when the panic sets in. That's when they start searching for the key they threw away, only to realize it's no longer within their reach. Imagine a traveler who carelessly tosses away a map, convinced they no longer need it. They walk confidently at first, certain of their direction, believing they know exactly where they're going. But as time passes, they start to realize they're lost. The landmarks don't look familiar. The roads blur together, and suddenly they feel the weight of a mistake they can't undo. That's what's happening to them. They believed they had everything figured out, but now they're realizing they were wrong. And the deeper they wander into uncertainty, the more they long for the one thing that could have guided them home. You. You were not just another part of their life. You were the foundation they didn't realize they were standing on. And now that you've stepped back, now that you've stopped proving your worth, they feel the absence like a missing piece in their puzzle. They're trying to fit others into the space you once filled, but nothing seems to fit. Nothing feels right. Because you were never just an option. You were the answer. The key they now need, but can no longer grasp. They underestimated you. They assumed you would always be there, waiting, hoping, longing for them to return. But what they failed to realize is that you are not a backup plan. You are not an open door waiting for their convenience. You are the choice they didn't make, the opportunity they let slip away, and now they have to live with that mistake. And the more they try to ignore it, the heavier it becomes. Regret is a weight that only grows with time, and now it's pressing on them in ways they never expected. You're not broken. You're rising. This isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your worth. You don't need them to see your value for it to exist. You don't need their recognition to be whole. The moment you stop waiting, the moment you stop making them feel important, is the moment they start questioning everything. And that's when the power shifts. Because the second they realize they no longer have access to you, the second they understand they are now the ones on the outside looking in, their desire for you will become undeniable. Think of a child who plays with a toy for so long that they forget its worth. They throw it aside, bored, assuming it will always be there. But the moment someone else picks it up, the moment they see it being valued by someone else, their attachment comes rushing back. That's human nature. We crave what we believe we can't have. And right now, they are starting to realize they lost something irreplaceable. They just don't know how to get it back. But here's the truth. Not every door can be reopened. Not every mistake comes with a second chance. And this time, you hold the key, not them. You decide who gets access to your world. You decide who is worthy of your energy. And as they sit with the weight of their choices, as they begin to feel the full impact of your absence, they will finally understand the lesson you never had to teach them. Losing you was the greatest mistake they ever made. Here is a powerful affirmation. I was the key they lost. Write this in the comments to claim your power, to remind yourself that you are not someone's second choice. You are the one they now crave but can't have. If this message spoke to you, if it awakened something inside, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We pour our hearts into creating content that empowers you, that helps you rise, that reminds you of your worth. Your support fuels us. Let's grow together. Let's move towards Number 7. The scar that still bleeds. Have you ever had a wound that seemed to heal, only to be reopened by the slightest touch? That's exactly how they feel now. They thought they could walk away without consequences. That time would erase you. That moving on was as simple as finding a new distraction. But the truth is that you were never just a fleeting moment in their life. You left a mark, one they didn't appreciate when they had you, but one that now refuses to fade. And the scar you left, it still bleeds. The deepest wounds are the ones we never see, because they don't exist on the skin, they exist in the soul. Right now, they might be pretending they're fine, acting like they've moved on, convincing themselves they made the right choice. But the mind doesn't forget what once felt like home. And love. Real love doesn't disappear just because they wish it would. It lingers. It waits. It creeps in during the quiet moments when distractions fade. And now, as they sit with their choices, the pain of losing you is no longer something they can ignore. It's an ache that won't go away. Imagine a painting they once admired every day, one they had the privilege of seeing up close. Over time, they stopped noticing its beauty. They walked past it, assuming it would always be there, until one day, it was gone. Suddenly, the space where it once hung feels empty, hollow, unbearable. And now they're searching for it, desperate to find something that looks, feels, or even comes close. But nothing does, because that painting was unique, irreplaceable. And now, its absence is a wound they cannot cover up. They underestimated you. They thought they could forget, that they could replace you without effort, without consequence. But now, the reality is setting in. They see you moving differently. Your silence is louder than any words you could say. Your absence is more powerful than any presence they now have in their life. And the scar you left. It isn't healing the way they expected. Because every time they try to move forward, every time they reach for something new, they are reminded of what they lost. They are reminded that the love they once had is now out of reach. You don't need them to be whole. Read that again. Let it sink in. Because while they're stuck in their own cycle of regret, you are rising. You are becoming someone they no longer recognize, someone untouchable, someone they now have to chase. This is your moment to reclaim everything, to remind yourself that you were never the one who lost, they were. And the scar they carry, it will stay with them, because it is proof that they had something real and let it slip away. Here is powerful affirmation. I am their unforgettable loss. Write this in the comments to claim your power, to remind yourself that you are not an afterthought. You are the one they will always remember. If this message resonated with you, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We pour our energy into creating content that empowers you, that reminds you of your worth, and your support fuels us to keep going.